everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Suits Talk. I hope you are enjoying the session so far. And last week you heard about our stories, and today we have a very special guest.
Yes, we'd like to wish a very hot welcome to Adam Raby, the CEO of Mazu Resortwear, straight in from Hong Kong to Dubai. Um, Obviously, we're in Dubai in the summer, so it is extremely hot. Adam is the CEO and founder of Mazu Resortwear in Hong Kong, with a history in marketing and advertising, working for the likes of Saatchi and Saatchi, Bud on Creation, many others as well. So, Adam, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Today we'll dive into something that I'm truly sure that everyone is very curious to know. That is about your journey to success, how you turned your idea into a real product, a real business, and what else you want to share with us.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was a success. I think success is a weird term to call, but it's been a journey. That's definitely a great way of explaining it for sure. Yeah.
And how would you say that you went on the journey from where Mazu was just an idea in your mind into a tangible business and products?
I think when it comes to starting any business, we live in a world now, everything is so easy. If you wanted to start a business, you could start it in 2 seconds. I mean, there are websites, there are different things that you can do to just essentially get going. I think what the difference is that you have to go get it. You know, people come up with ideas and concepts all the time. And the differences between an entrepreneur and someone that comes up with an idea is that they actually go out there and convert that idea into a tangible thing. So I think that's the first thing that you have to do. When it came to my business at the beginning, it was taken from my advertising days where I learned from my creative director. He taught me the concept of the difference between idea and concept. And the point of that was that basically, an idea, anyone can think of an idea. An idea could be as big and as small as possible, but a concept is like a fundamental to many different ideas. So if you build a good concept, then you can branch off to many different ideas off that concept. And it was applied in advertising when you think about everything that is developed. You know, you look at any advertising campaign, the fundamental at the base of it is the concept.
Of course.
So that being said, I was like, well, before I come up with an idea, because let's be honest, swimwear is not anything new, right? Swimwear, everyone has swimwear. It's not a new idea, but developing the concept was the most important thing. And I noticed in the market that the people that have longevity within the fashion world are the ones that have fundamentally a good concept. I'll take Louis Vuitton, for example. Fundamentally, they were a travel bag company or a suitcase company before they were what they are today. So that being said, I looked around and thought of a concept that suited me and suited the brand that I wanted to be, which was kind of Asian maritime history. And then my father wrote a book about gods. And there was a particular god or goddess that I took a interest with, which was the goddess of the sea, which was called Mazu. And from there, I started to build my foundation. And before even designing anything, like before designing my first pair of shorts or even drawing anything, it was about building that foundation and concept first. And that's essentially where the whole thing came about. And then from there, because it's maritime history, learning about, the goddess and that her favorite color was red. And red for Chinese people is very prosperous, very lucky. So from that, I was like, okay, well, I want all my drawstrings to be red. And that was all built from the fundamental concept, right? And then obviously the drawstrings, the idea, and then like doing junk boats, which is iconic to Hong Kong, is another idea. So that was my baseline, and then that's how I kind of built upon that, if that makes sense.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. And talking about the beginning of your journey, what was your activity before being an entrepreneur, and what inspired you to jump in this business field?
I was a professional rugby player for a little bit. Growing up in Hong Kong, I think every kid's dream is to play in the Hong Kong Sevens, and that was always what I wanted to do. So I was very fortunate enough to play in that tournament, and it's one of the highlights and something I'll never forget in my life. That with like, getting married, having a baby, and playing in Hong Kong Sevens are probably the three biggest memories.
Does your wife know?
And then, so basically, like, once I had completed that, my next task was, well, what do I want to do next? And with my degree in advertising, I just used this natural progression, and yeah, just stumbled upon this concept and this idea that I created, and then just the rest is history, and just created it from there. But
Incredible.
but yeah, I was in advertising before. I did kind of sales and multiple things that led to where it was.
Would you say your background in sort of marketing and sales helped catapult Mazu?
Oh, 100%. I think for any entrepreneur, it's to learn how to sell is probably the most important skill. Like, unless you are, you know, someone that has a tech genius algorithm or something like that where you build a product. But the problem is everyone can build that nowadays, but unless you are this diamond in the rough, you still need to sell that system, sell that software, right? So I think learning how to sell is all, and the best way to learn how to sell is just to go out there and do it. There's no other way to do it, because any salesperson will tell you that they'll have failures where they are told no, no, the price isn't right, or no, it's too cheap, or it's not that good, or there'll be people telling that all the time. But then, once you make your first sale, that's obviously very important. But yeah.
And to establish Meizu, what was the initial challenge you face, and how you keep the business in trend and innovating?
I think when when I first started, there wasn't many men's swimwear brands from Asia. All the brands in Asia were from the West, and including Australia. So there weren't any kind of swimwear brands male that were representing Asia, that had kind of. And I thought, well, I'm very fortunate enough to travel, and Asia has some of the most beautiful destinations and some of the most beautiful resorts in the world. You just have to look at anywhere in, there's just gorgeous places everywhere, and I just felt I had to represent that in some way and find something that was, what's the word, that represented it really. Um, and then yeah, and then that's how it all kind of all got going. But I always kept true to what my concept was, which was kind of maritime history. So always looking at that kind of old traditional photographs of Hong Kong, looking at traditional photographs from different regions around Asia, so that I get inspired by what turns into the print that it is.
What would you say were your key challenges that you've kind of had to overcome initially? And obviously, I think Mazu's been going for just over 10 years now.
Yeah.
Would you say the challenges have been cyclic, or were they kind of there initially and you've overcome all of those?
You know what's funny is that I've always asked myself the exact same question quite recently, especially during COVID and post-COVID times, is that if I would have done everything that I've done, but did it in the US or did it in Europe, would this company be far more along than uh, than it is? I think yes. So, which means the challenge for me is Asia in general. I knew Asia are not a very swim savvy people. You know, you just have to look at the recent Olympic Games that, not many Asian athletes are, or no, Chinese athletes are swimming. They're not, in the top 10 of. So swimming as a sport and as a lifestyle is different than it is anywhere else. But changing that perception is difficult, I think. And being in Asia, I think, is the biggest challenge. Which then you might say, well, why don't you move somewhere else? I'm like, well, I have a family in Hong Kong now. It's a lot more difficult.
Come to
Yeah.
Dubai.
But I don't know. I don't know how to start a business anywhere else. I don't have that experience. Well, I need to find the right partners if anyone's watching. Just yeah.
Oh, nice. Aidan, do you mind sharing with us what strategies are most effective to keep your business growing?
I think men don't, for a swimwear brand, you've obviously got to follow trends. But I think I'm fortunate because I think male trends are not as fast and as dramatic as women's trends. Because males, especially when it comes to luxury, I think classic is always easy. Like a pair of black shorts will be timeless. If it's constructed well and it's done properly, you can't go wrong with just a plain black, or plain blue or plain red, or it's timeless. So
Evergreen,
yeah.
essentially.
So I don't really focus on trends as much. But it's also important to know those trends because in order to grow, especially via digital media, sometimes you have to adapt your business to trends. And sometimes you don't as well, because I think what is also trendy is just sticking to what is you.
True to you,
Yeah.
the concept.
Yeah. And if you are selling yourself and selling the brands, then it will start its own trend. And you just got to believe that, I think.
And talking about trends, it's a curiosity of mine. How many times you have to adjust your concept to match the new trend or to reach some public or
I mean, I'll give you a good example. One trend. So when I started the business, I always wanted to kind of look after the environment. I think, we live in a world where the amount of plastic that we're using is ridiculous. To the point where, I knew I wanted to go down that path. But when I started the business, that fabric, that kind of recycled material wasn't good quality for what I'm selling for. I wanted to make sure if I was to do this, that the quality would be at a high standard. And then it took about 3-4 years till I found something that was like, okay, you know what? I personally, if I'm going to sell this, I personally think this is good quality to the point where I can sell it. And it took time. And also at the same time, swimwear in general was moving over to a recycled based fabric. And in factories around the world, we're starting to produce more of this, which is great because recycling plants were all turning bottles into recycled PET. And because there was more of it, there was more choices of this type of fabric. And it's a good example of a trend that I wanted, and it just had to be a matter of time till I kind of release it the right way. and there are more and more now offering that now. So
I think that's it's a global trend, isn't it? Because I think people have come to the realization that the fashion industry is incredibly wasteful and damaging to the environment. So um, I think you've kind of got in there at the right time, going down the sustainability route, whereas some bigger brands are probably struggling more to
yeah,
pivot into the sustainable sector. So would you say that's benefited you being slightly more smaller scale, a bit more? It's giving you the ability to be agile and pivot.
I would say yes and no, because at the same time, I go back to the first challenge that we're talking about was Asia in general. Unfortunately, Asia just can't. I mean, the amount of plastic that Asia use. I mean, actually, how the world uses. But the problem is that changing the mindset of people in Asia is a lot different than changing the mindset of people, Western people. Um, kind of telling Japanese people to not eat their sushi in plastic containers is a lot more difficult than telling. It's difficult. It's a different mindset, and it takes a lot of effort to do that, and it takes government effort to do that. And I think if every company can do their little bit, because companies essentially rule the world. If every company can do their little bit to help, then it'll make it easier for the government as well. I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, that's true. And it's a worldwide trend,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
ESG policies, let's save the world, sustainability, and so on. So,
But
yeah,
it
if
shouldn't be a trend. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Like when you think about it, it shouldn't be a
It
trend.
should be the default.
yeah,
Yes, it
Yeah.
exactly.
should be
It should be a
default.
standard, yeah.
Right. We shouldn't really classify this type of thing as trend. Um, yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, from since few years ago, it's it's being highlighted as okay if your company follow this kind of policies and you have this concern with the environment, you have like a star.
Mm.
If no, you are on the side of the society, let's say. And yeah, I see as a trend, but shouldn't be as you yeah, as you explained. I agree with you. And Aidan, I'm a little bit curious about um, your lifestyle.
Right.
Let's talk about the behind the suits now.
Sure. Sure.
Or how you keep the balance between your very rush work life and how you recharge yourself, how you chill, how you relax.
I Based on your podcast, I think not many entrepreneurs switch off. Like they say they switch off, but they don't. I don't think they really like. I never switch off. If I switch off, I'm sleeping. Like I'm always thinking about something, like whether it's work, whether it's something that's going on the rugby pitch or something, or like wondering how my daughter and wife are doing. My mind is always on, and if it's not, then I'm sleeping, um, or yeah, or I'm about to sleep.
Probably even thinking about it when you're sleeping, to be honest.
I
Subconsciously.
used to actually. I used to dream about like starting my own business and things, but yeah, it's I think no one switches off. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
That's the danger. And I think in this day and age where technology is where it is, right? It's very difficult to switch off because everything's so instantaneous.
Yeah.
People expect responses instantaneously. It's difficult to switch off, I think.
100%. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I love sports so much. Because if I had to say I do switch off at some times, it would be when I play sports. Because I think when you are playing rugby, playing paddle, or playing football, you are focusing on making a tackle, hitting that ball, passing. You're purely focusing on that game or, you know, that that task in hand. And I think that's what I love about sports is that it's the one place where I don't have to think about work. I don't have to, but at the same time, you are thinking about something else, which is what you are required to do. Like, oh God, there's a big guy chasing me. I better run faster. Like, it's it's probably the only time I switch off.
That's incredible. Where just going back to Mazu, right? I don't want to take up too much more time because we're coming to the end of the session. But where do you see Mazu in like the next 5 to 7 years?
I would love nothing more to grow outside Asia. Um, just as COVID hit, the plan was to expand outside Asia. I wanted to be known as an Asian brand, because if I look at other brands that I have been inspired by, and admired, they've always had a fundamental home base. Um, I'll take Oliver Brown, for example. They're a London-based company. I take Vilbequin. They were started in Saint-Tropez. So to be known as a Hong Kong company is always great. Um, but it's kind of like expanding outside Asia would be the goal, but it takes time, and there's different challenges in different places. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of things happening. Yeah,
What legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I hope that the business is still around, so that now, because I now have a 9-month-old baby, and I hope that if the business is still around when she's old enough to take over the business, that would be a pretty cool legacy. I think that would be something that would be quite awesome. Whether she wants to do that or not, who knows? When people tell me that I am the Asian, or Mazu is the Asian Vilbequin, that is already a good legacy. Like, I've admired this company for a long time, and if someone, and I have been told this already, that is pretty good legacy, I think. And but at the same time, we want to get out that shadow. So who knows? Like, who knows where it'll take me? But if the company's still around in 20 years' time, then I think that's a legacy on its own. Maybe.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Yeah.
awesome. And before we do wrap up now, just very quickly, have you got any words of wisdom that you wish you knew when you started out? So, for any young entrepreneurs that might be listening to this podcast, what would your advice be?
I would say, or look down the camera. I would say, if you have an idea or have a concept, just go for it. Like, if you've been thinking about it for a while, or you've been toying with it in a while, just do it. Because even if it fails, you've still learned something. Even if, it's not going anywhere, if it's just sticking up in your mind. So there's no better time to start a business than now. And just, I mean, take Nike's, just do it.
Yeah,
There's nothing stopping you, you know? Like, people have started business with next to nothing. Um, yeah,
and if you don't try it, you're never going to know, right?
exactly.
You're
If
depriving the world of
potentially,
something amazing potentially.
I mean, any investor will tell you that the the chances of finding a diamond is very hard, and you know that, like, what, 50% of businesses fail in their first year. So yeah, there's no better time to start than just doing it. There's just, yeah.
And I believe some people are attached to this kind of information, like why should I start a business if the probability to fail in the first year is so high? So they are putting the dreams behind only because of these possibilities, and they are not facing the risk. And thank you so much for your
No, thank you.
advice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your amazing story with us, separating time, a short staycation in Dubai to stay here with us. Super thank you for this. I really appreciate.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It's always good to see an old university friend. Yeah.
We will drop Mazu and Adam's socials on the podcast channel for everyone. Please hit the subscribe button and watch out for the next episode. Thank you for tuning in. So, Adam, we want our guests to leave with a good memory of Suits Talk. So, if you have a look under your chair, you'll find a little something from us to you.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, wow, cool. So, like a business card holder?
Yeah.
We've moved over to e-cards now.
Yeah. Digital.
Cool. This is great. Love it. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ed.
Thank you once
Thanks for
again.
coming.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
This is great.